We have a very special guest. He's been on many, many times. I hope everybody shares this interview. We're going to keep him coming on. I know he's going to go on a little hiatus for a month or two and give him and his family a little bit of a break because he's been running on full steam for God knows how many months, since February, since he started his journey running for president, going to New Hampshire multiple times, going to Iowa. And, obviously he's in Colorado now. A former mayor from 2003 to 2007 of Cranston, Rhode Island, Steve Laffey, is back on the program. Steve, before we even get started, they just had a school board race. This in Cranston, it had been a Republican seat for, I think, about 15, 20 years, and it just went to a Democrat. So the little bastion of red in Rhode Island, God knows what the heck is happening, but it's kind of scary. But thanks for coming on the program.
Oh, well, at one point I sued everybody on that school committee $1 million each when they didn't balance the budget. If only Jimmy Carter had treated the Iranian hostage people he took hostage in '79 the same way with military action, we wouldn't be where we are today. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's great to be on with you, my friend. You do great. You ask good questions. So yeah, we're happy to be with you and explain what happened or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about what happened with the campaign. Obviously, the RNC screwed you from the start. The first debate, the second debate, they wouldn't allow you on stage unless you wanted to buy $20 gas cards for every $1. And I don't even know how the hell they played that out, some of these candidates.
Well, you had to do two things. You had to raise your right hand or your left hand and say, I'm endorsing whoever the candidate is. There were two people, Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie, who bold-faced lied and went to the first debate. And then they weren't endorsing Donald Trump if he was the candidate. And then you have the three candidates who decided they were so wasteful with other people's or their own money that they were going to send out $800,000 of gift cards after they took in $40,000 of $1 donations. Nice. I would just want everybody to know, I'm just going to predict this is going to happen. I don't think Mayor Suarez sent the $20 back. And if he didn't, because people have written in that they haven't gotten anything from Mayor Suarez, who dropped out of the race, that's called mail fraud. It's a really big problem, folks. So if he's listening, Rob, you get this to him in Florida. He needs to get some checks, go into his bank account, and start sending $20 out to people, because that's mail fraud.
I think Mayor Suarez was a Trump plant to go against DeSantis, because him and DeSantis don't get along at all. They have a very bad relationship. And I think a lot of these guys are, and I know you're not a big fan of DeSantis. I have mixed feelings on the guy, but I think a lot of these guys are Trump plants. We look at Vivek. We look at Suarez. I think Nikki Haley is even a Trump plant. I think Christie is a joke. He has no chance at winning. This is a guy, and you can get into this, Steve. This is a guy that ran against Donald Trump. He endorsed, the day that he endorsed Donald Trump in 2016, Trump was making fun of him on stage. He endorsed him. He worked for Trump. And now all of a sudden, because of January 6th, he's against him. And he's the liberal icon for the Republican Party on mainstream news media, where he's the go-to guy to go after Trump. I think he's just a joke.
Yeah, I think I have as much a chance getting out of the race to become president as he has staying in the race. And this gets at the real problem of the National Republican Party and what we're seeing in the campaign. Listen, as I said many times, there's 1,000 people be better president than I. None of them were running. And now I know why. Because the press, not you, Rob, the press in general has this mindset. And in fact, when I sat with Nathaniel, a young man, your age roughly, sitting there talking to him at the 538, the old Nate Silver channel, part of ABC, he's assigning check marks and more weight to someone who's a governor. He gives Suarez a check mark because he's the mayor, a ceremonial mayor, no power, over me because I was only the mayor of 83,000. So all these little check marks to get coverage, I couldn't get. Yet, as I said to him, you're doing the self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, wouldn't you want to say to someone who is an executive, did they do a good job? Like, did Chris Christie do a good job as governor when the bond rating went down the most in the history of the United States of America while he was governor? I would say you take a check mark. You get a negative check mark. Steve Laffey, that would be me, bond rating up 8 notches only as mayor. Maybe you don't give him 8 check marks. Maybe you give him 2. People worked in the private sector. Doug Burgum did a good job, created a lot of wealth, hired a lot of people. Boop, 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 check marks. Steve Laffey, same thing. Not as much money as Doug because I didn't have my own firm. Boop, boop, boop. So then you could say, how many people went to jail in your administration? Well, how many, so then Chris Christie, boop, 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 he keeps going down. People went to jail. My people, what do? They run another city and they're successful. So we can go all day about that, but see the problem, it's one of the real problems. And that's why we're left with people I could never endorse. And I think you're probably right. I mean, one of the things, if people want to go to stevelaffey.com and you can watch me on a great Newsmax show, and I'm attacking Donald Trump because I'm running against him, and I think it's very normal. In Cranston, Rhode Island, I was running against Aaron Garabedian, no primary, boop, 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 boop. I had a primary running for re-election, husband of a crossing guard, which is a whole nother funny story, boop, 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 against him, right? And so I'm attacking Donald Trump, and the host says to me, Sunday morning, Newsmax, hey, Steve, why are you attacking Donald Trump? Why aren't you attacking Joe Biden? And I say, because I'm in a Republican primary. And the guy's face is like, yeah, wait a second. That would be normal. Like he just hadn't heard it because of the sycophants you just mentioned. Right. Except for Chris Christie, who doesn't know how to take down Donald Trump because he has worse problems in some respects himself. But he has on like Vivek, who's like, hey, I'm against Biden. I love Trump. Doug Burgum, Trump was a great president. Biden. They're never running against Biden. What the heck are they doing? So that was one of the telling moments of the campaign, not because there was anything wrong with that guy. It's just that he got into the mindset over months and months having people like me on attacking Biden. And I'll attack Biden in the general election, don't get me wrong. But I got to first get rid of the opponents around me, don't I? Anyway, that's the story in many respects. And I was never able to get enough traction to have a 3-week, which was the plan. I couldn't raise enough money. I couldn't put in enough money to make a difference. Nobody, look at Vivek. He put in 20, 30 million bucks and raised 3, and he's now in single digits forevermore. And he can do his reincarnation thing in South Carolina, I guess, and get 2% of the vote. But what I'm saying is, I mean, seriously, as I said at the beginning, Vivek Ramaswamy is pretending to be a Christian, announcing he's a practicing Hindu, which means he believes in the god Brahma, and reincarnation. And that's why a cow is sacred. But to the rest of us, we eat cows, right? And in South Carolina, not many people go to church in New Hampshire compared to South Carolina, but that's like a death blow, It's like being a pedophile. Like you come down, you abuse children. Here I am in South Carolina. It's never happening for the guy. So the whole Hindu thing, which made me think about Vivek, and the reason that I think he doesn't, like when he says things like, we're going to get out of Taiwan as soon as we're semiconductor independent and China can have them. Read the speech at the Nixon Museum. He says exactly that. I think it's because he doesn't have a Judeo-Christian background where all people are important. To him, it's like, they can come back as a king. Yeah, they get slaughtered. He's a Hindu. And I'm not making fun of Hindus at all. You can say that, but he would have been better to announce and say, by the way, I'm a practicing Hindu, and this is what I believe, rather than couch it in the fact that he went to a Jesuit high school and, he went to a Bishop Hendricken thing, but he's a practice. All that stuff is like, it always comes back to haunt you. You're better to be direct and say, we just simply disagree, because his version of the world is not the Judeo-Christian world that we're talking about. You and I mean, grow up Catholic, whatever you are, whatever the belief, he doesn't believe that system.
I want to ask you this because you were in New Hampshire a lot. And again, you're fighting against a guy that was president of the United States, is the man of media because he's getting all the coverage. And, you were having tough time, as you stated, getting traction due to, they really weren't covering candidates that had a lower platform besides Trump. Maybe DeSantis got a little bit more coverage, but besides that, I wasn't really seeing many people get a lot of coverage in New Hampshire. When you were on the ground talking to the regular folks in New Hampshire, what were they telling you as far as issues, as far as what they thought of you in general? Give the audience a little bit of a, an idea of what was going on.
Yeah, so to separate out, you have the Republican National Party and you have state party chairmen who are all with Trump. And so those people, they're not at the meetings you go to, they're doing other things. but they're a Trump organization. That's why he's so strong. When you're the president, hey, I was the mayor of Cranston. If I couldn't control the votes in the Cranston City Republican meeting, there's something wrong. But as the president, he controls the votes. He put people in power. Then you have let's just go down to the people who go to the meetings. 40 people, 50 people, 70 people. They're outside. They go to the monthly Republican meeting in Salem. The people who run those meetings, great. They're like being in Rhode Island, or here in Colorado. They're good people. They want to do the right thing. The meeting is partially about putting up lawn signs, this and that, what's happening at the city council. And yes, we have Steve Laffey running for president, and then whoever else might be running for president or their representatives. And so when I was speaking, I should say everybody, most everybody knows what I'm saying is actually correct. I mean, just to go through it for people who maybe haven't heard it. One, the middle class has been destroyed. I'm here to unify the country over one issue, restoring, revitalizing the middle class. To that end, I've got these 5 serious programs that's going to take me 10 minutes to get out, not like it's huge, kind of stuff. And it's going to be revitalizing Social Security so that we take out $65 trillion of debt, changing the Federal Reserve Board so there is never inflation anymore. And that means that Congress must do its fiscal job. The public schools need to be ended over time. I'm just a cheerleader for it, the way, I can't change that, but I'm going to try to make everybody get out of these public schools. College loans, a whole system to change what happens there, which I'm the only one with a solution for, and so on. And so people, when they hear that, I mean, and the national debt is so much, and Trump did this, and and here's how we get a Swiss debt break and bring our debt down. So I say all these things, and of course, people who are mature, who are over, they're in the meetings. They're mostly white people over 50, et cetera, et cetera. There's not a lot of teenagers hanging out at these meetings, which is unfortunate, because the Democratic meetings, they're all there, right? Speaking Spanish in Providence, Rhode Island, the Democratic meeting. So what happens is they're nodding. And that's it. This guy's right. And they approach me afterwards. And then I've got to cross this chicken and the egg problem. They like it. And like a head of a committee might say, can you go to this meeting? Can you go here? And I go, yeah. And people give me business cards and I start doing it. But remember, I'm only talking with 40, 50 people. I need Fox News to be at the meeting eventually. I need CNN to say that guy could take down Trump. We'll destroy him later. MSNBC to say the same thing, right? Instead, they went with Christie, who, they're dumb as rocks. I'm the only guy who can talk like this and didn't know Trump, right? But the people themselves are great. But what happens, I can tell you, just every single meeting, when I'm done, there are two people who are always at this meeting. Ramsawamy people who have been hired and paid, no volunteers. He has money. They're 35 years old, horn rim glasses, in great shape. They mostly talk about themselves. It's really odd. I got to tell you, it's the oddest thing I've seen. The one guy, I forget, my wife is nearby, but one guy was talking about Vivek getting him to buy his home because he lives near a nature preserve. I'm like, Vivek's not buying you a home. The second person who comes in is a funny thing from this. It's sort of humorous. The next person who comes is an older white dude, always a male. And he's a Trump guy, got the MAGA hat on. He's ready to roll. He's mostly overweight, but he says, quote, no, he gets up and says, quote, this is every time it's the same quote. So he's hired or not hired. Quote, as we all know, Donald Trump was the greatest president in the history of the United States, end quote.
Wow, that's quite a big statement.
Now, you sit there. Now, it's not my job. I'm not going to say to complete strangers, what are you? And start swearing at the guy or yell out, has anybody heard of Lincoln? Do you visit Mount Rushmore for a minute? Like, give me Truman. What are you talking about? Like, it's so outrageous, but then that's Donald Trump. This guy believes it. And so the other people, though, are always searching for this shiny object, right? So many people, again, you see it in the polls. Trump's at 50% roughly in New Hampshire and 60% nationwide among Republican primary voters. And so half the crowd is like, yeah. You're like, so then you think that did someone put goof gas? Is something out of Rocky and Bullwinkle? What's happened to how would people react to someone say, imagine if I said, no, I can say things that are true. The bond rating, when I was at mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, went up the most in 3.5 years in the United States of America history. That's a true statement. It's not I didn't win World War II. It's not the greatest statement in the world, It's a true statement. I try to say true statement, but we live in a world where nobody cares. When I say nobody cares, nobody really cares. So otherwise, these people wouldn't be in the race. Would Ron DeSantis be in the race when he said SVB Bank went broke because it was woke? That's like Ted Kennedy in 1980 being asked, "Why are you running for president, Mr. Kennedy, Senator Kennedy?" And he doesn't even know. He was out of the race that day. He just didn't know it, right? So back in the day when someone would ask a question, if you said something like that, people are like, that guy's an idiot. What? So, but people know you can say whatever you want. Like Nikki Haley, who I think you're right. She can announce and say, here's why I'm running. I just told you all why I'm running. But Nikki Haley can announce and say, because she's a rock star, right? She can say things like, before I was a governor of South Carolina, it was a backwater place, and now it's the beast of the South. I think, did you ever hear of Mark Sanford? Were you the governor in 1880? Like, South Carolina's been a growing state since the 50s. Like, it's one of the fastest growing states. But she says this and no one says anything. Then she says, I'm running because, one, you know this because you've heard this, folks. Yeah. I'm the daughter of Indian American immigrants. Two, my son is having trouble buying a home. Like, I care. Three, my daughter's writing woke papers to get A's in college. And I'm like, you just said that about your family? My kids don't write woke papers. They go and see professors if they get, I have 3 in college now and 3 who have graduated. We go find people and say, you're not doing that to my kid. But she just says, hey, they just write woke papers to get A's. What does that say about her as a parent? So these things are like going on all day long, and we live in the never, never world where my ideas get some traction, but people gravitate to, and then again, if I can't.
But is this just because the Democrats are so bad that the Republican candidates can just get away with saying all these batshit crazy things?
I think it's because of the internet and over the years, and I think Donald Trump really started it. If you see Donald Trump get away with saying at the very beginning, hey, John McCain, he's not a war hero. War heroes are the ones who don't get captured. Yeah. Now, if you say that in 1983, you're finished. If Gary Hart had said that, instead of like, follow me around, you won't find me, on a boat with a girl. If Gary Hart had said that, he was finished. So you go back through history and you say, now, people must know this. John McCain in the 2006 primary came in to help Lincoln Chafee attack me twice and helped him raise money. He's still a war hero. I had to put stuff in the book to make fun of him a little bit. I met him. He's clearly, when he was alive, clearly couldn't raise his arms higher than this. Clearly, he's a war hero. So when Donald Trump said that and got away with it and just kept going, grabs women by the whatever, walks in and sees naked ladies over here, blah, 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 when he owns Miss Universe thing, it left the door open for anybody to say anything, in my humble opinion. And that's where we are. Say whatever you want. Reporters don't do the work. I mean, Donald Trump said in April of 2016, not only was going to balance the budget when he became president, he was going to pay off all the debt. I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying that. And I'm a Calvin Coolidge conservative kind of guy. So the trend is toward just nonsense, and they know it's a celebrity thing, and they realize that most people only vote for people they hear, and that's because of the internet. So think about it. The last 2 presidents, and maybe the third one is a really old man who doesn't know what's going on named Joe Biden. He's been around for 50 years, and everybody knows him. The other guy is Donald Trump, and everybody knows him since he was a young man making news in New York and having a show and firing people and being sued and going broke and the casinos and a football team with Herschel Walker. So everybody knows him too. That's really the problem, because think about the second debate, which I had to watch, because I was on national TV the next day.
Well, most people watched it and took a nap in between, but okay.
It was so terrible. Think about, okay, so you're running to be the chief executive officer of the United States of America, the most powerful country on earth, and no one asks a chief executive order.
Right. The questions were horrendous, and there was no control by the moderators. It was really
on purpose. I mean, they say we try to control it, and then you're like, hey, it's the 21st century. Turn off of the other mics, right? Put a glass between them, ask the question, get an answer, and say, Mr. DeSantis, Vivek just mentioned you. He said, blah, 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 as you heard. You have 30 seconds to answer. Then he answers. Instead, you can't even pick up what people are saying. Imagine watching that from Bulgaria, thinking, I want to live in America. And you'd be like, what the? I thought I was going to turn and see John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. What was that? And so it was a joke. And so think about your chief. So if you're the chief executive officer of a Dell's lemonade stand, your biggest cost is probably people, not the 1 cent lemonade, right? Or the truck. So you look at that. How do I hire people? If you're the CEO of a high-tech company, you have a different, it might be wafers. I don't know what it is. But in America, it's Social Security. It's the biggest line item budget. So I talk about it.
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
Yeah. And then I go to Medicare, Medicaid, and I go to national defense. It's like, hey, it's sort of like even when I was mayor, I didn't really get to the crossing guards until after I got elected. Because it wasn't a big line item. Now it became a huge issue in Rhode Island, but it wasn't what I focused on in the election because we were broke and we had a pension problem, right? And the pension problem was 3% funded. It was going to bring down the whole city and then the state. So I focused on it, fixed it, and moved on to other things. Think about if you're the CEO, don't you think about most people who are running companies like healthcare insurance is rising so fast. It may be the highest rising cost, the fastest rising cost. In America, it's interest on the debt. Goes from 300 billion to 700 billion over four years. 700 billion remember, interest on the debt, not the debt, which is 33 trillion. But you're only taking in 4.5 trillion. At some point, normally it's going to be 1.4 trillion. It's going to be a third of what we take in, paying the interest on the debt. Well, you can't do that with your mortgage, right? But that question never came up. How would you get the interest on the debt to be down? How would you stop this so that people wouldn't suffer? They're not even questioning.
Yeah, but you also got to think that a lot of Americans are looking for all the Kim Kardashian BS in debates on TV in general. They don't give a crap about all the stuff you're saying. It's sad. It's not right. But what's true is true if we're going to be truly honest with each other. It's not the sexy topic. The sexy topic is is Donald Trump said this about women. Donald Trump said this about this. And let's talk about it. Let's play it on the news for a 48-hour cycle. And then we'll move to the next issue that happened with Donald Trump or Joe Biden fell down the stairs. He's 82 years old.
So think about who won the debate. Well, Nikki Haley really got Tim Scott. What do you mean got him? Like who? I would rather have a guy who can't speak be president if he could balance the budget. Like he could just a mute. Let's get a mute in. Come on, folks. The whole thing is out of control, but that's not how you win a debate running for president. I
want to ask you this because someone said this to me when they listened to your last interview, and they said a lot of your policies, not all of them, but a lot of the, uniting the country, about breaking up all these federal institutions, whether it's, public schools, working on all these, I'm fumbling and stumbling with words, but regardless of that, breaking up all these institutions, you sound almost like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president. No. Regardless about the vaccines, he's talking about a lot of the same things you're speaking about, not Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security particularly, but about breaking up these institutions and uniting the country. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a crackpot. He's mentally ill. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says that Sirhan did not shoot his father. He said that Hugo Chavez was a type of leader that his father and his uncle would have admired. Hugo Chavez was a complete terrorist who killed a lot of people. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that Koch brothers should be killed. That's not what I'm talking about. So I would say that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has got some serious mental problems, giant conspiracy theorist guy, no serious policies. I don't know what anybody's talking about now.
But you know why a lot of people are drawn to him, because the government has lied over many, many years about many different things. Not so much about going down the conspiracy realm, but even going back to something that I think we all can agree on what happened. Lying about going into Iraq and Afghanistan. All the money.
See, I'm not into that. These are like old issues. Like, so he keeps.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but I'm just saying a lot of people were diverted to Trump, are diverted to someone like a Kennedy because they're just fed up with the system. And you have these guys that say, listen, we're going to get up there, and this is just an FU to the Democrats and FU to the established Republicans. We may not get nothing done, But when we get in there, these people are going to hate us. And that's why people say, as you stated, Trump is the greatest president in the world. We're going to vote for Kennedy because it's an FU to the establishment. And we hate these people because they haven't done anything. And as you alluded to, they're crushing the middle class and they have zero solutions to fix it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that somebody like you that does
I agree.
that does have the intelligence to fix these problems, they're not giving people like you a traction. So these other guys that are somewhat gaining traction, the people are saying, well, we'll vote for these two guys because at least they're saying F you to everybody rather than some guy that's, like DeSantis is up there. He's like a mechanical doll. I mean,
no, I just want to ask the question just for people to think through. If I was the son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and given what I've done, and he was the son of a toolmaker next to a gas station with real troubles in the family, where would he be today?
Fair.
So that's the celebrity contest. If his name was not Robert F.
It's the same thing for Trump too, though.
Oh, no, the same thing for Trump. Now, Trump's father was a well-known guy too, but not in politics. But no,
but he gave Trump a lot of money, and that's how
Trump. $300 million. Yeah. So Donald Trump without any money would just be in a psychiatric ward today. He'd just be sitting there drooling at people because he think he was rich still, but he wasn't. So luckily he was rich to start, and I guess adjusted for inflation, he has less money. I started with nothing and have some money. So so Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a crackpot. Will go nowhere as independent, won't even be on the ballot in all the states. He'll get at most 6% of the vote. A lot of it will come from Republicans who are fed up. I get it. And like a blind squirrel, I mean, he doesn't want a polio vaccine. Okay. But listen, I've said it's like saying, well, Trump got his conservative judges. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I'll pick from the same list. How tough is that? But how many chiefs?
Well, they told him who to pick, as you just stated.
I mean, listen, I'm conservative. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not right about all these other shots. I said, I'm like on the tapes in April of 2020. It wasn't Robert F. Jr. saying we shouldn't be doing this. It was me saying we've got to take all the treasuries that China has, and we got to put them in abeyance until there's a trial, and then give them to the people who suffer. We did it with tobacco money, which I disagree with. But we did it. Let's do it right now. Yeah. 2, it obviously came out of a lab. I've been saying this since 2020, April 2020 on radio shows. It wasn't that hard to say this. 2, I've said publicly, I haven't heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr. say this. Pfizer, all right, I'm not saying Pfizer did anything wrong. They were asked to do this. They went through, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It didn't work. It's not a vaccine. Why doesn't the federal government go to Pfizer and say, we want half the money back? Yeah. I mean, I'm making the numbers up, like half the money back. I don't know. But you told us it was a vaccine. It's a flu shot. So, I mean, again, other shots.
Well, again, as you stated too, they never told us about staying healthy, about getting vitamin D, about losing weight, about working out. They shut down the gym, shut down the skate park, shut down the basketball courts outside. They shut down the beaches. This is Republicans and Democrats doing that. And it was just a ploy to, I know some people may not agree with this, but I'm going to say it straight. It was a ploy by the government and Big Pharma to push out this medicine that they believed was going to work. And it obviously, as you just stated, did not.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like
it's not a conspiracy. That's all factual information.
Yes, I agree. It's factual information. It didn't work. Did it help some people? I guess. But as I said, again, I have these tapes. I've played them. They're on Facebook. Like I'll put them on Substack. And I literally say, hey, listen, I've got a daughter with stage 4 cancer. Guess whose problem? My problem. It's not the federal government's problem, and it's not you listening to the show when I was on radio's problem. I'll take care of my problems. You take care of your problems. And that was the right answer. The other thing I said very publicly, I said, if Donald Trump wants to win re-election, he says one thing, quote, we're Americans. We always go to work, end quote. Yeah. Then you have, see, in America, we handle all of these things with a giant shotgun and not a little rifle. If we have a specific problem, it's in my book, Medicare Part D. What did George Bush Jr. do? younger George Bush, he had this whole $13 trillion unfunded liability. We had some people who weren't getting Medicare because of, I don't want to bore people, what we call the donut hole. They made in the middle. And so on Medicare, we should have targeted those people in the middle. Instead, we had a giant program. They could have made a COVID Chinese virus thing and give it to really old fat people and hope it helped. Okay. But they didn't have any right to tell people go to college. Young kids weren't dying.
Yeah.
They're young. They're going to get sick. Fine. They're going to get some of these people would have adopted some of this stuff during the campaign. And, it's very sad to watch, for example. Now, I don't blame Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for becoming an independent. He wasn't given a debate when he's polling at 10%.
Right. 10, he was up to like 20, and the Democrats, listen, whether you like them or not, if somebody's polling at 20%, that's like saying if you're polling at 20% against Trump, they better put you on the damn stage. I don't care if the guy can't talk, can't see, whatever. That guy deserves a shot, and let the people decide. If they don't like, if they don't like what he's saying, they'll vote. They won't vote for him. Yeah. If they don't like what Biden's saying, then they'll vote for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the things we did during the campaign, which still mystifies me, is that we've not only tried to contact all the other candidates who did not, say all, people like Hutchinson didn't make the second debate, Congressman Byrd, and say, listen, let's have our own debate. We can go on 5, Reeve and Rob on 5. We can go over here at 6. We should have town halls. And then we went to other networks, News Nation, Newsmap. I have email after email, and they're all good people that run these places, in my opinion. They're all fair to me, the ones that had me on. We went to the ones that didn't have me on and said, why aren't you just saying, you know what, we don't care about Fox News, Fox Business News. Next Tuesday night, we're live streaming on CNN, on News Nation with Chris Cuomo. Yeah. We're just live streaming. Whoever wants to show up, you 7 guys. And by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., come on over. Right. Gonna have a debate for you. We're gonna do one topic. We're gonna do how to balance the budget. We're gonna do another topic. It's gonna be Ukraine. We're gonna make it up. We're gonna do another topic. We're gonna do topic by topic by topic. It's the presidency of the United States. So far, there's been 2 debates. It's gone from like 8 people to 7 people. And Donald Trump, politically, as I said on national TV, they said, what would you tell Donald Trump, to show up or not show up? I'd say, don't show up. I'm only saying that I'm never advising the guy running against him. But if I was sitting on your side of the table to the people who are announcing, I'd say, you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. Why would you show up? No one can get
not even that. You worry about, if you're in his case, you worry about, he's up there running his mouth. And with that, he's got all these court cases. He says the wrong thing, they can use that against him in court.
That's true. And he did politically, he did the right thing by not going to either debate. He shouldn't go to, if you're polling at 60 and, what's Ron DeSantis stuck at 12? I'm just making this up. And Chris Christie's going to take you out. And think about this, like Donald Trump, I was so sad, but Donald Trump must have just doubled over in his office when he's watching the debate after he was doing his own press stuff with Ford Motor Company, whatever he's doing. But when Chris Christie looks into the microphone and says they're not going to call you Donald Trump, they're going to call you Donald Duck. That was maybe the stupidest thing ever said at any debate. I'm talking about high school debates. I've never seen anything so dumb in my life on national TV. Has anybody seen anything quite like that? He's really getting them. He's going after him. Someone might call him Donald Duck. Chris Christie is a walking, talking disaster. He's also a walking, talking advertisement for our healthcare problem. 40% of what goes on in this country is obesity. 40% of our healthcare costs. I feel bad for him. I'll pray for him. But you can't have a guy who looks like that be the president. Get him on that Eli Lilly drug and tell him to come back in 3 months. Something is so radically wrong with someone who thinks, hey, here I am. I'm wandering around. 40%. My life expectancy is 57.
Why do we have all ththese obese people that either are president or running for president? Between Trump, Christie, Biden, or either obese, they're senile. It's really a joke. And then I bring this up because you see these other countries, and they are dictators, but their leaders look strong. You remember, I'm sure, the picture of Putin with the shirt off. And then we got guys like Biden, they're fluttering around on the beach. Trump's got a big belly. Christie's a
Well,
horse.
I think what's happened is that we just simply, other than Taft, most presidents have been very skinny, but he couldn't fit in the bathtub, I guess, is what the story was, right? He couldn't knock all the water out. But other than that, we reflect. So think about Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He's out there, national parks, walking around, shooting some bears, saving a bear. That's why we have teddy bears. He's, an athletic guy. He's a big, burly guy, but we sort of reflect the non-working out, don't shame people. I mean, I have to laugh over the years.
Crisis in the
I'm not
country.
making fun of overweight people, but the world has changed so much that, like, what do you mean?
Sad.
What does that even mean? Like, if you're grossly overweight, the doctors, you talk to doctors now, they don't say, hey, Jimmy, listen, you got to lose 25 pounds, like right now. They say, oh, let me give you a pill. That's what you talk to doctors. They're afraid of being sued or someone smacking them in the face. And what do you mean I'm overweight? So this has all changed over time. In the South, in the deep South, Rob, we covered this company. It was a publicly traded company. It was called Catherine's Stout Shop. Women's clothes that the smallest size would have been 16, I think. I noticed it changing. I joined the firm in 92, and I remember the vice chairman saying that he had gotten something for a secretary as a gift certificate at that in the late 90s. And she got upset because it was called, so they changed the name to Catherine's. It just became Catherine's, but it was for, extra plus size stuff. Now that's like the rage, right? Plus size models. You go in front of Victoria's Secret, you're like, whoa, have you seen a Victoria's Secret outside a store? And you're like, I had no idea that was going on. As far as everybody celebrating being grossly overweight, I'm not. I think it's bad health, and you won't live as long.
Yeah, they look like horses. It's pretty sad.
Anyway,
I want to ask you this though. Now you changed to independent now, from Republican to independent. Was that just because pretty much Donald Trump is going to get the nomination and you're not going to vote for him, or were there other reasons?
No, I just thought after 44 years, I needed to get out of the campaign and send a message. Remember, no one's going to call in and say, hey, that Laffey, he's a rhino. I'm an 18-year-old. Go to college, start the conservative party up there. Go read the Main Times about me. I write my own newspapers, the Bowdoin Patriot. I get in trouble for some of the stuff. I became a Republican in Rhode Island. I stayed a Republican in Rhode Island, which is a tough place to win. I didn't pull a Jack Reed, who grew up son of a, sort of family like mine with no money, goes to Harvard Law. He comes back, yeah, I'll be a Democrat. I'll pretend that I'm pro-choice and I'll be, name a building after me. No, I'm a Republican. After I lose, I'm the only living Republican to ever be attacked running for higher office by the National Republican Party, the only elected Republican. Ever, by the way, according to Reagan's biographer, Craig Shirley, who wrote the article in 2006. But I stayed a Republican and wrote a book, through the largest book published in the world, called Fixing America, that tries to fix the Republican Party, not leave it. Fast forward. But I don't see any reason other than send a message that the place is a joke. You've got Marjorie Greene booing President Biden during congressional, State of the Union addresses. Folks, it's not okay. You've got at least Mrs. Boebert out there. She's grabbing her boyfriend by the crotch, and he's grabbing her breast. These aren't Republicans. These are nuts. And Trump himself, and then the people running that I can't endorse because they're obviously sycophants. So
to be fair, on the left, they have AOC, Ilhan Omar, and all these other clown cars.
The Democrats.
They're even worse.
I totally. They act like aliens sometimes. So I just decided that I'm getting out. Listen, I could get back in if some sanity returns, but I'll tell you what might very well happen. I think what's going to happen is this, and I don't know. But Biden won't be the nominee and Trump will. And sometime around February, they're going to turn Biden off. He's going to have a little speech. He's going to wander off to the exit, finish his presidency. Kamala Harris, we know, was a disaster. She's saying, I'm not running either, because Democrats toe the line, not like we do. Yeah. And then they're going to put in a governor. I don't know who.
Newsom.
Could be.
Going to be Newsom.
And you're going to watch a young man, someone much younger, because people see the optics of even Trump, who has not lost his facilities, but is really old, right?
Yeah.
But the optics of McConnell staring into space, still won't resign, Feinstein, God rest her soul. I don't know where it is, but God rest her soul. I mean, she wouldn't leave for like a year. Then you've got even
But
Fetterman.
Pelosi, to be fair, the
Pelosi.
backstory of that is Pelosi's daughter was the aide, and Pelosi was controlling that whole operation. And they
No.
want to get Adam Schiff, the Russiagate guy,
Yeah.
on Trump in that seat. So they
Yeah.
put that Kamala Harris's girlfriend in there, let her live out that term,
Right.
and now they want to get Schiff in there so he can go over there and fight with Trump for 4 years, and they
Right.
can battle about Russia and everything else in the kitchen sink.
But I think the Republican Party will get destroyed in that scenario. I think that by the November there'll be an exhaustion, and everybody, like after Nixon, will want somebody new. Not like in the sense of people, same situation.
But you know that Fox wants DeSantis against Gavin Newsom.
Yes, they're having a debate themselves, I think.
Yeah, they want that bad. And I think Newsom wants that. And that's why he's playing into that. And he thinks that Biden will eventually step aside, as we just talked about. Newsom sits in, and you've seen Newsom on TV. I don't like him, but the guy is a young guy. He's slick. He's got the Hollywood endorsements and the Hollywood money. He's got the big tech money in California. He can speak good. He can go after the Republicans. And DeSantis, I think he's done some good things as governor. I think that on the debate stage, he's pretty horrific, honestly.
Horrific. I don't know why horrific. And maybe I should just go into advising to help out, because these things I say are obvious. And I guess people make a lot of money if you get people to listen to it. But just think back to a year ago. So Ron DeSantis is sitting around, like I was sitting around at some point, saying I'm going to run for the U.S. Senate. And of course, what did I do? I did nothing but be a mayor. Oh, no. Mayor. One day, bang, I'm running for the U.S. Senate. Here's why. Ron DeSantis does this whole warm-up and goes around and gives terrible speeches in Israel and in the UK. No one knows why he's left. Then you can attack him for the money spent, being out of the state. Instead of just polishing up and doing one thing, just saying, hey, I'm just the governor of Florida. I know it's the fifth, whatever it is, the fifth biggest state, let's say. I know it's growing the fastest. I love the people of Florida. I'm committed to stay here, and I'm just really love doing this. And then one day, bang, I can't take it any longer. I know I supported Trump in the past. He's out. I'm in. I'm an executive. Look at my people. And his big message should go like this, because this is what people know. Like right now, if he's listening, the way to get some traction is to say this. Hey, when you watch a baseball game and you didn't know there was an umpire? That's me in Florida. There's been 5 hurricanes since I've been governor. You haven't heard about any of them the day after they happened. Remember Sandy? That was Chris Christie in Bush. Remember the one in the whatever they were that went on for weeks because no one could drive out and people were dead and people were on Super Bowl on top of the Superdome. He just needs to do one thing. I'm a chief executive. And copy my line if you're listening, Governor. I know how to put the right people in the right place at the right time. One sentence says it all. Say it and just do that, and you'll get traction. Because most people then go, yeah, all right, he's a pretty good governor. Sort of like Reagan. You get traction. Now, this is why you never see Chris Christie say stuff like that. He's a terrible governor, right? What's he going to say? I left with a 14%.
He left with an approval rating that was like 37%, I believe. Around there.
He left.
14, I'm sorry.
His last year in office. I looked it all up because I'm running against him. He spent the last year in office 251 days out of the state of New Jersey. They hated him. How about when he sat his fat ass on the beach that he had closed to the other middle-class people, and he lets a helicopter come over and he's like, I guess my career's over. So the guy, his people were arrested too, went to jail for Bridgegate, right? So he has nothing to say, but other people have things to say. It would have been better for Nikki Haley just to talk about being governor. Remember, if Nikki Haley ever got some traction, you have to understand what would happen. What would happen would be, it'd be like, and I would have said this in a debate, Mrs. Haley, let me ask you a question. When you left office, the reports say that you were $200,000 in debt, had no equity. You're now today worth $5 million. Looks like you made speeches to giant corporations. They paid you $100,000 to $125,000 for 1 hour. I just got to know, what earth-shattering news did you deliver in that speech that I didn't see?
It's another Hillary Clinton game, that's what she did. So
Did you? Then you
and
said,
Bernie went after, in
yes,
regards to that, Bernie went after, and he was bringing up those points and bringing up those poll numbers when
it's
he did do
effective.
that.
It's effective. So if you added into Mrs. Haley, well, I don't dislike, I don't know. But if you added in, did you consult Hillary Clinton before you did that to see how much money you could sandbag people out of? And then when you get to be president, give back those favors 10 times over. That's the gig, right? I mean, I didn't get to do that, but you got to do it, Mrs. Haley, right? See, Nikki Haley doesn't know the other thing you'd say to Nikki Haley is that if Doug Burgum ever catches on, right? And he looks over to Mrs. Haley and says, if he's listening to this, he should just remember, you look over and you say, I got a couple of things. Not only did Laffey ask that question, but I got another one. You're on the board of one publicly traded company, Boeing. You're not an engineer. You don't build planes. You're not a financial expert. You don't know anything about steel. Why were you on that board? Oh, and it was $270 a share when you joined and $93 a share when you left. They paid you $350,000 and you destroyed the company? How can I get that gig? That's what you say to her. There's no answer. See, you have to always ask questions where there are no answers and do it sort of humbly that you don't really know the answer, but you know the answer. Those are the ones that no one ever asked, but they're very easy for Mrs. Haley. If she caught on, that's what people would start asking.
You've definitely done your research. I think you do need to consult some of these people because they need some help. Boy,
if I was on that stage, you would have heard these things.
Yeah. And it's just really sad. So we kind of agree that Trump is probably going to be the nominee and it's going to be a governor, whether it's Newsom or someone else.
I think so. But I think the Republican Party will lose so badly that I hope and pray that at November, whatever, that someone says, hey, you know what? There was that son of a gun Laffey. We never gave that guy a shot. We're in deep trouble. It may be like Cranston in a macrocosm. Let's see if he wants to be the head of the Republican National Party, because these people have screwed up so badly. And if I was ever doing that, we could bring it back. And then we'd have a party, because here, I'll leave you with this. We don't have a party in the Republican Party. You can say whatever you want at any time about anything. You could be Vivek Ramaswamy and say, yeah, I wasn't really a Republican. Trump wasn't a Republican. I didn't even vote. I didn't vote in 2012, 26. Here I am. I suckered out some people to get the first, that is $37 million of money. The SEC did nothing. Ha, ha, ha. Here I am. That's not a party. That's just a bunch of people saying, here, I'm just going to stick a stick in the ground over there in the moon and say it's my property. I mean, it's just a placard. It's a holding thing for anybody with lots of money or crackpot theories or whatever. And that's what's going on in our party.
Well, regardless, those guys are going to lose and they're going to get a job as a consultant, or they're going to get a job on CNN doing political commentatorship, or MSNBC or Fox or whatever it may be. And that's their game plan. So they might come out with losing some money right now, but at the end, they're going to make it all back doing all these other gigs that they're doing. I want to ask you this right before we cut loose here today. And by the way, there's a sucker born every minute. So those are the people that are voting for all the people that you spoke about today.
Yes.
But regardless of that, you're taking a hiatus for about a month-ish.
Yes.
What's going to happen after that? Are you going to get back into the game? Because, I really believe this is the most important election of our lifetime. There's so many things on the line. This is not a joke. This isn't, every politician says that. This is really game time, crunch time. It's foreign policy. It's Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It's our budget deficit. It's our budget in general that we can never get past. We haven't got a budget passed since Clinton, I believe, was in office, maybe even before that. It's really ridiculous what's going on. So what are you going to do once you are done with your hiatus?
I don't know, but I'm not done. So I think what we produced was a good body of work on national TV that people can see. And I think I'll be proven right when I say that the next 18 months are going to be the worst and make 2008 look like a picnic. I'm not wrong. And I'm unfortunate to be very serious. I know I like to joke. I am the only guy who really runs for president, still has a smile on his face, I suppose. But this is very serious stuff. And what is starting to happen years too late are things I said in 06 would happen if we didn't change. made a movie about, and then ran for president saying this financial crisis is beginning now in February 1st. It's like happening now. That's why I'm running. And here's my proposals to fix it.
Right.
So when it happens, and it's happening now, because even in the Wall Street Journal, you're saying, you see, no one will say what I've said. And I'll just say it to everybody here. There is no way now, as I said when I made the movie in 2011, that when we pass $20 trillion of borrowed debt, which we're at 25, 26 trillion of that today, that we can ever really pay it back and go back to normal. Can't be done. Mathematically can't be done. It's like saying, you know, mathematically, someone's listening, they have a home. Could you make 100 grand and allocate $90,000 to your mortgage and still live? Of course not. You have property taxes. You got to buy some food. So in the same sense, you can't have a third of what the money you take in go to interest and still fund the other things. So the US dollar is still relatively strong because the other countries, you know, they suck so bad that we're still relatively strong. Two, it's not really in the game yet that we can't do it. But when that hits, and it hits over like 10 days, that everybody realizes it, then interest rates will be much higher. And the Fed will have to do quantitative easing combined with repressing rates. And I mean, that you thought the government was involved in the Chinese virus? When they announced that 2-year treasuries yield 1%, and that's it, and then the Fed buys all of them because no one's even going to issue, and they start borrowing almost all these things on 1 year. So people say, oh, I guess in 1 year I can get it back. It is lights out for America. That's how bad this is. And that's how countries fail. And that's how civil wars start in other countries. That's how wars go on. This is about to happen, not necessarily the war part. I'm just being, this is that serious. It's why I ran and why I think it'll all come around at some point. I don't know where I'll be or how I can, I don't mean to take advantage of it the way the chief of staff of Obama used to say, right? The mayor of Chicago, crisis is where, right. You know, never let one pass. I mean, will people come around like they did in Cranston to say, and that was during the election when we were totally booked. Remember, I'm a crisis manager. That's really what I did in the private sector. Bad things I make good. But people elected me in little old Cranston when I hadn't been home in 20 years. No one knew who I was at the beginning, like easier in Cranston than the nation, because they were scared crapless that they weren't going to get a mortgage on their home. That's how scared they were with the bond rating was the lowest in America. And my message was, you're not going to like anything I'm going to do. I'm a financial expert. I will fix it. You won't like it. Vote for me, Steve Laffey. I'm telling that to America now, but it's not like you won't like anything I have to do. But you won't, this would be, you know, if I was president, and I've said this publicly, there'd be a 2-year window where the economy would have a really rough patch to get out finally of this deformed economy, which we can't get out of now with all the regulation and the Federal Reserve and so forth. But once we came out, you would think it was 1880s again. It'd be like 5% growth. And if we don't get back to 5% growth in really good years, we're toast. And we can't get back to it when debt is 90% or above. Nobody grows fast when your debt's too big. People have done econometric studies on this to show around the world that and it makes perfect sense. No country, no person, no company can think straight when their debt is too, they just think about the debt all the time. And that's where we're getting in America. And so I'm going to be part of that process. I'm the only person with any solutions for it. We'll see if anybody comes up with one. They feel they don't have to, but I'll be in the fray. And I think running for president was very helpful for that, Rob.
Yeah. But my problem is with you in Colorado is that it's really went to the left.
Yes, I don't want to be in Colorado. I'm not going to be Mr. Colorado, whatever. I've got to do stuff for the nation. Okay. And that's the way it is. I just don't have, maybe I'll have my own show. Maybe, I've been on TV enough that people see what I do. We'll figure it out in the next couple of months, but by January. But it is good. People don't necessarily want to hear from the same guy they've heard from a little bit after it gets out of the race. So, there's a reason why. And of course, I never say things like, I'd like to spend more time with my family. My family, I don't really work. So they're right here. Most of them anyway. So these silly things that people say, I want to spend more time with my family. What the hell's the matter? You feel like, what the hell's the matter with you? Why didn't you do that in the first place, you numbskull? You're 7 years old. I'm retired. They're usually getting out because they can't win a race, right? It's one of the silliest things you see people say. And I've been just blessed to spend all my time with my family.
And homeschooling your kids, it's great.
Homeschool my kids and be married for 29 years to the loveliest lady, and she just still likes to hang around with me all day long. So I'm very blessed. So if nothing happens for me, no one needs to worry about me. You know, if I keel over today, at least I fixed one city, and my kids love me and my wife loves me. That's better than most.
Well, Steve Laffey, SteveLaffey.com. Yeah. No, I agree. SteveLaffey.com. Definitely check him out. Steve, where can they get the Substack and anywhere else besides SteveLaffey.com?
I would go to Twitter, which I'm still going to do, and then you got to put the Substacks up there. You can click on that and go join me on Sub. People are joining more than I'm out of the race than they were when I was in the race. I don't get it, but here we are, right? More articles about me getting out than getting in. Although they were at the initially getting in. Or you just go to SteveLaffey.com and then just hit the Substack thing and join up. And I'll put those things out. I may not put out too many the next month, but I'll put them out regularly. Like, for example, I'm sitting here thinking before I go on this trip, is there really another article where a guy says the money monetarist stuff doesn't work because the money supply went up in the 2010, 2020 time frame, and they don't talk about velocity? Rob, do I have to put another one of these up for these stupid idiots who write articles, who are the financial people at the Wall Street Journal who never took a financial course, or the same at the New York Times? They're writers. They know nothing about what they're talking about. It gets extraordinarily frustrating to say, am I going to write another one about these idiots? But I will. So anyway, here we go.
Listen, we need you to stay in the fight because you're a person that's done it already. You're a person that knows what's going on. And a lot of these other guys, as we've stated throughout this interview in general, really don't know what the hell is going on in the country. And they're just talking about all the woke stuff. It is important, that stuff. But these things are really important to get the country back on the speed that it should be trucking at. And it's right now it's at speed close to zero in general. It's sad. But SteveLaffey.com. Steve, thanks so much.
Hey, thank you. And there's a reason why nobody wants to debate me.
I agree.